Friday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday. I'm in love. The Cure. Throwback. 80s, 90s, early 90s. Love The Cure. Friday, I'm in love. I am in love, folks. This week was absolutely fantastic. Still up here in Aspen. Heading back to God's Waiting Room, Boca Raton, on Sunday. Just had a great morning of skiing. A little cold, man. I'm a spring skier, man. Usually coming out with the kids during spring break in March where you're getting a suntan and you're sweating a little bit. It's cold, especially when you're, like I said, coming from South Florida. So beautiful day so far. Figure I come in, check on some of my. I love being on mountain time, man. I love coming, getting up at the crack of dawn, which is great, so I can meditate, do a little trading, go out ski until lunch, come back in, and see how things are going to end up. So what a great week, interesting week. We'll get into the testimony yesterday, a lot of smoke but no fire with Blad and Kenny Boy and all the folks on Capitol Hill and Maxine, Mad Max. But here's the Wall Street rebellion that was squashed. There was a bounce off the 50-day moving average, and as I talked about, we're speaking of being up here and HAPE. We're getting hypoxic up here. The market's just kind of needs to do what it did this week, which was kind of wallow. Look at all those little drill bits for the past week and a half. Like there's been big kind of pullbacks. Well, big pullbacks for up here. Down 200 points on the Dow. People are freaking out like, is this the big one? Every one of these dips I've told my members to buy. This is not last February. I get people are looking at the left side of a chart. Hey, it's the anniversary of when we imploded last year. I'm like, this is this year. Be present. Namaste. So we did kind of need this break. Every one of these dips was kind of bought, and here we are, right? So being up here at these record levels, it is time to change, as George Bush Jr. would say, my strategy, right? So usually in these kind of up markets or what we've been seeing, Monday, Wednesday, Friday with my investment club, I love to trade, SPX, the S&P 500, kind of day trade it, man. Quick strikes here and there and all sorts of stuff. But to be honest with you, and you ready for this? I sound like Ricky Bobby. I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence. I do with the SPX day trades, and then I don't. So guess what? That's not consistent. There was a couple days was it last week or the week before? I got my ass handed to me on was looking at like $8,000 of profit on an SPX Iron Condor, asleep at the switch, went from an $8,000 profit to a $9,000 loss. That hurts. That sucks. That was a failure on my part. That's not consistent, right? A firm I worked for up in Chicago, one of the largest options trading firms in the world, the lady who owned the firm, Great American, had an awesome kind of guiding precept. She said, we may not make the most money. We make money consistently, right? So I'm changing my strategy from Monday, Wednesday, Friday, kind of rolling the dice. I don't like to gamble, to a strategy of income generation, weekly income generation. I might get back into, if we kind of get back on the horse here and start galloping higher and never looking back. Great, but like Colin Powell, great general, great Secretary of State, kind of a rhino. He had I'll paraphrase one of his quotes. Never get too close to your position, that if you're presented with factors that are changing on the battlefield or new intelligence, that you don't change it, right? So I'm going to change it. So I'm going to go to looking forward to generating weekly income on long positions that I own. So let me show you. What time is it? It's 12:28 Mountain, 2:28 Eastern. If everything kind of goes as planned the rest of the day, I want to show you how this week turned out for me. Okay, so here we go. The new strategy is generating weekly income. How am I going to do that? I'm going to do that by selling weekly calls against my longs, whether it's long stock that I own as a shareholder, or with a tactic that is called synthetic stock that I teach folks here at Top Gun Options to do. Some of these, my stock positions, folks, are very large. They're six-figure positions, but guess what? You don't have to have six figures to put these positions on if you do that tactic called synthetic stock. As a matter of fact, in a couple weeks, I think March, whatever that Tuesday is, the first week in March, I'm going to do every once a quarter, we do eight live training sessions. It's called Full Throttle. Tuesday, Thursday nights, we grab a bottle of wine, we sit here, and for an hour and a half, I go through every tactic, start to finish, starting with This is the market, this is a call, this is a put, all the way up to becoming a Jedi Master options trader. Okay, so look for a couple emails. If you're already a member here at Top Gun Options, you get it. If you're in solo Amazon, you might not get it unless you kind of took the full throttle training. And if you're just kind of sitting on the sidelines watching these videos and interested in Top Gun Options or learning how to trade options, do that. So keep an eye out. Okay, so this week, let's check out how I did. Microsoft. I own 3,000 shares of Microsoft, so I could sell. Remember, one contract is 100 shares of stock. So I could sell 30 upside calls against it. Microsoft's been trading around, I don't know, about 240, 241, 242-ish for the week. So I sold, I believe it was the 245 calls, upside calls. That generated 6,100 bucks. So if by me at whatever time, 2 o'clock, come skiing down the slope to come check everything out, if Microsoft is below 6,100, I'm sorry, if Microsoft is below 245, the short call, I keep that 6,100 bucks. If Microsoft is above 245, guess what? I keep the 6,100 bucks. No matter what happens this week, I'm putting $6,100 in my pocket with Microsoft, right? If it's below 245 at the closing bell, what am I going to do? Next Friday, I'm going to sell the 245s. And I just looked at them a little while ago. I can bring in almost $7,000, right? What if it's above 245, Wiz? Well, guess what? Tomorrow morning when I wake up here in Aspen, put on my bunny slippers and sip some coffee, log into my E-Trade account, those shares are going to be what's called swept away, right? Remember, when you sell an option, when I sell one of these upside calls, I sold 30 of the 245 calls. Remember, sellers have obligations. You're selling your house, you're selling your car. Okay? What are you obligated to do? Give them the damn keys, right? You have an obligation to deliver. So when I sold 30 of those 245 calls, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, I'm obligated to deliver what? 3,000 shares of Microsoft at 30. So the only risk, quote unquote, in this trade is what? The underlying. Microsoft goes to zero. If Microsoft goes to zero this week, I'm not going to know about it because the world exploded. It's nearly physically impossible, right? So that's the main risk in an upside or a covered call. Your risk is the underlying stock. Guess what Uncle Wiz does? He doesn't buy crappy names, right? So I came up with a new acronym. For the past couple months, I said, when in doubt, run to Microsoft, Amazon. And if I want to sound like a sheep, I'll say Microsoft, Amazon, Apple. And then a couple weeks ago, I fell and hit my head and woke up and said, Elon Musk is a genius. When in doubt, run to Matt. Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Tesla. Let's continue. So just on Microsoft, that's 6,100 bucks this week. Apple, speak of the devil, I own 2,000 shares of Apple. I sold 20 of whatever calls the 132s, brought in 2360. No matter what happens, this on this screen, no matter what happens, if the stock's above that short strike or below it, I'm keeping this money. Okay? Amazon. I have 100 shares of Amazon, but I also have, you ready for this? 4 synthetic stock contracts. So I can sell upside calls, weekly calls, against a synthetic. You treat it exactly as if you're long stock. But instead of coming out of pocket, 100 shares of Amazon, folks, right now is like 320 grand. Okay? Don't have that much to swing, folks. Well, guess what? I can teach you that tactic to get long that amount synthetically, and it's a fraction of the cost. More on that in full throttle training. SLV, the silver ETF. You saw my brief the other day where I talked about China. Nobody says China better than me. Believe me. China might kind of just shut off their country with all their rare earth metals. That's not going to be good. Look inside your cell phone. Look inside of a fighter jet. Crack your TV open or your computer. It's precious metals in those, folks. So the silver, last week I had 5,000 shares. No, 2 weeks ago I had 5,000 shares. Like last week I added another 5, and then I sold. So I have 10,000 shares of the SLV, and I sold some upside calls to bring in 1905. Tesla. 500 shares. I can sell 5 contracts, 23.25. XLY, the consumer discretionary ETF. I love this. I have 10 synthetic stock contracts and I sold 10 upside calls against it, 860 bucks, right? Beats a stick in the eye, folks. Multiply all of these numbers by 52, right? We'll get there in a second. But during this week, as I briefed you, I'm kind of pulling back on the Bitcoin thing, but going in another direction. What am I doing? Marathon. I'm looking at some of the ancillary, there's your SAT word of the day, ancillary stuff around the Bitcoin and coin freak show, right? So Mara, I bought 4,000 shares in one personal account and 2,000 in another for a total of 6. So I sold 60, 44 calls. Right now it's right around $43, $44. So it doesn't, I really don't care. If it finishes above 44, because I've bought it at like 43 and a half, I'll make a total of $14,880. If it finishes below, I keep that credit of 10,980. Either way, I keep the credit of 10,980, folks. Okay? Now, I get that my personal portfolios are some rather everything's relative, right, folks? What you might think is a large portfolio, I kind of look at some folks that I know that they could find this in their couch. It's all a matter of scale, right? Do me a favor and drop a zero off of every one of those things. Wouldn't it be nice? Hell, even that XLY, 860 bucks. I think the cost to enter that trade was a couple grand. How about making 860 bucks? Let's just round up and say 9. 5 weeks in a month, 9 times 5, you're making 4,500 bucks a month. This is nice, consistent income. This week alone, looking at potentially I am going to make that 32,270 in 1 week. If you annualize that, folks, that's 1.6 if you'll allow me to round up, 1.7. What is not shown on the screen? The difference between the stock and the short call, right? You know, my Apple basis, because if Microsoft's at 240, right, and I sell the 245s, if Microsoft goes up $5, first of all, I'm keeping the credit when I sold the 245s no matter what, but I also make Microsoft going from 240 to $5. So on the screen, folks, is not included the underlying going up. Now, let's always point out risks. I already did a couple minutes ago. Let me remind you. The risk in this is the underlying. I could wake up Monday after collecting my $6,100 today, Friday, or Saturday when it settles, and my breaking news, I don't know, what's his name? Who the hell is the Microsoft dude? The nerdy guy with the glasses. Bill Gates is the Antichrist and spread COVID and the stock goes to zero, even though he's not there anymore. It doesn't matter. Guess what? That's a risk. If the stock is going down, selling these upside calls is still good because you're generating income. But again, look at that screen. The only, quote, risky thing on that screen is the marathon thing, but the Bitcoin thing is insanity. And some of you might look at Tesla with a raised eyebrow. If you value it as a car company, it's worth 90 bucks. If you value it as Elon Musk, it's probably underpriced, okay? So, income strategy for Uncle Wiz going forward until we kind of come up with a trend where we're really going to be going in this market. If crazy Uncle Joe and Kamala, really, really, really dump 1.9 trillion into this market, it's got to go somewhere, right? So, all right, now let's do a quick brief about everything else that's going on in the world. 3, 2, 1. Okay, folks. Well, and it sucks to start with this stuff, but you really have to keep this. It's part of SA, situational awareness, right? Joe Biden cracks me up, man. I told you this during the campaign. I found this out. The University of Pennsylvania, whatever the name of the school, the Chinese government had donated like X amount of millions and millions of dollars to this, quote, school. It's a front. Joe Biden was what? I was a professor there. He even said in this interview, I really never showed up. He made $1 million for doing nothing. for the University of Pennsylvania school, I forget the name of the school, that got a ton of cash directly from China. Replace the words Biden with Trump and let me know what the media coverage would be. Here we go, man. Iran snubs Biden overture for nuke talks. Lift the sanctions, we will respond. Welcome to Obama 3.0. Maybe if we fly billions of dollars in cash on unmarked airplanes in the middle of the night to the mullahs, they'll stop wanting to kill us. How'd that work out for us? So here comes Joe and Kamala, say, and you got John Kerry running around in the background doing whatever he is, flying to Iceland to get the Man of the Year for the environment on his private jet. And the reporter who asked him, like, don't you think it's a little hypocritical you're flying in a private jet to claim it? He's like, well, men like me need to be able to do that. That's exactly the problem with this country. Rules are for thee, but not for me. Okay? I'm allowed to get away with this stuff because it's for the greater good. These people will not be satisfied until Iran is literally a parking lot and the United States. But you keep doing you, Joe. We're in trouble. Instead of talking about stimulus and opening businesses and small businesses that have been destroyed and this and that, what are Democrats doing right now after impeaching the president and wasting another $50 million, a former president? Democrats introduced bill to bar twice impeached presidents from Arlington Cemetery burial. That's what the Democrats are up to. Not getting you a stimulus check. Oh, please, can I have some more, sir? $1,400, $2,000. Are you insane? It's a disgrace. Nancy Pelosi in her kitchen with her foo-foo ice cream as people are starving. Businesses are being destroyed by riots, Black Lives Matter, Antifa. Oh, an insurrection. Yeah. How about Ted Cruz? Stupid. Optics are awful. It's dumb. CNN yesterday spent like hours of breathless coverage on the Ted Cruz flying to Cancun story as Texas froze. Stupid, bad optics. You know what they didn't cover yesterday? Governor Cuomo being responsible for thousands of deaths in his state and covering it up. Anyway, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how's the play? U.S. stocks and bonds yields rise to end week. What's the VIX doing right now? VIX, VIX. Plumbing the low 20s. This is a good day, man. Here's that Mara position. $11,000 just today. What's Amazon doing? Take my eyes. Okay, good. Well, look at this. Here's the short calls that I told you. I said I have 100 shares in another personal account that I trade. It's called Real Money for people who are idiots. And this account is, you see, individual brokerage account, This is my portfolio margining account, and this is a dead. Every account at E-Trade that's portfolio margining has to be married to like just a quote normal brokerage account. So that's why that one's there. But anyway, so the 100 shares is in another account that I sold one upside call against it. But here's the one where I sold four. I sold four of today's 3315 calls. Let me click on analyze, and there you go. There's the 60-20 I was telling you about. So no matter what happens today with Amazon, I brought in $6,000. What's that do? That lowers the cost basis of me getting into Amazon. And look at this live portfolio. Right now, I have positions totaling market value of $1.2 million. But again, this tactic, folks, the income generation, folks, I didn't hatch as me. I hatched as little old lowly dude who didn't even know what an option was as an ensign in the United States Navy. Bought maybe 100 shares and sold one contract. It's a nice climb, folks. It's a slow and steady wins the race. So even folks with smaller portfolios, the vehicle most people take to learn about options is via covered calls. Like Wiz, I bump into people. Oh, you trade? I trade. What do you have? Well, I have a bunch of stock in my portfolio. I'm like, you sell upside calls against your positions, right? To bring in weekly cash or monthly cash, and they look at me, and you can hear the crickets chirping. And after 10, 15, 20 minutes of kind of explaining what it is, they're like, where you been all my life? I know I was like that. Sitting on Ann Taylor and American Express back when I was an ensign, and my buddy taught me options. I'm like, oh my God, why haven't I been doing this? So anyway, yesterday was stupid. This was dumb. This guy actually looked like he should be called Vlad. He looks like the head dude in the head vampire in the movie Twilight, the head bad vampire, whatever his name was. This was just dumb. A lot of smoke. There is fire here, but Maxine Waters and most of the folks on that congressional committee are idiots. How you remember that? What's that congressman's name? There's a Navy 4-star admiral like testifying, and this guy sat there. He's like, Admiral, aren't you worried about Guam capsizing? I think the dude was high or drunk, but this admiral had to sit there and explain that, sir, Guam's an island. It's a massive island. We fought the Marines. Congress people, for the most part, are stupid. I would have loved to have been on that congressional panel. We would have gotten to the bottom of it. Actually, I take that back. No, we wouldn't have, because he got 5 minutes. Maxine Waters. Ken Griffin was ready to actually answer a really tough question. You could hear her gavel banging in the background. The time of the gentleman has expired. I'm like, let him answer the question, lady. It's whatever. Namaste. It was a joke. It was a disgrace. The two pins that will pop the stock market bubble as we get up here, folks, are this. Interest rates, right? Going up, write this down. When interest rates are low, stocks will grow. When interest rates are high, stocks will die, right? So it's interest rates, and then what? Inflation. Folks, 900 billion in December, 1.9 trillion in February. All of this money flooding in, folks, is going to have an effect. The price of things is going to go up. What's the Fed got to do? They have to take their foot off the accelerator. You saw what happened, what was it, last week when the Fed, somebody leaked that Jerome Powell that afternoon might, in a speech, kind of sort of mention that they might ever think about raising interest rates again. And the market imploded that morning. You're dealing with a bunch of crack addicts right now, or heroin addicts. I don't even know. When you start saying, hey, man, we're going cold turkey, or you're trying some of this methadone, I don't know why I know that, we're going to have a taper tantrum, just like we did the last time. All right, man, I want to go scan. Apple hiring engineers to develop 6G wireless. It is 5G out? Me personally, I'm looking forward to 27G. What? I mean, do I really need to look at Instagram at 6 times the speed of sound? It's kind of, I don't get it. I will tell you that I wish that my Apple, here you go, 2,000 shares. I own 2,000 shares of Apple. I'm not happy with them. I briefed you yesterday, I think, or the day before. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, scaling. He's still in Apple, but he's starting to pare his holdings. I feel the same way. If China wakes up one day and says rare earth metals, we're going to sit on them for a while, Apple's going to implode. They actually named Apple at the height of the trade war with Trump. They're like, the spokesman's like, and if this trade war gets worse, we're going to clip Apple. We're going to throw you out of the country. They have international risk, man. And out of my run to Matt, Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Tesla, that's the first one I'm going to ditch. So I really wish these shares would get called away. So I'm going to start writing at the money calls. Like right now, let's take a look out to next Friday in Apple. I own 2,000 shares of Apple. Next Friday, what's it at? If I really want these shares called away, how about next Friday's 130 calls? I could sell 20 of next Friday's 130 calls and bring in $3,100 a week. Annualize that, folks. 3,140 times 52 trading weeks. That's 6 figures, man. 163 grand. That's a nice tactic. So, all right. Hey, I apologize. I went way too long, but I haven't been doing my sit reps consistently, mainly because I've been focusing on a lot of stuff, focusing on me, not in a selfish way, in a good way of being able to be a better man, better person, and trade better, folks. Like I said, man, you can't trade well if your mind ain't right or your body ain't right. If you're not in shape, if you're not if you're not centered. How about that? There's my namaste word of the day. Okay, I got to get going. The slopes are calling. Have a great rest of your day. Happy hunting. Make sure you hedge, and God bless. Namaste. I will talk to you on Monday when I'm back in South Florida. We'll see you.